But the pandemic's been over for some time, AOC. Here with reaction is Climate Depot publisher Marc Morano. Marc, good to see you. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks.
What do you make of this whole debate within the Democrat Party? I mean, if I'm going to buy an EV, which I'm not going to, but I'll buy a Tesla because they actually work. They're great vehicles. But that's a problem for Democrats because it's not union made.
Yeah, and if you actually parse what she said, which I admit is painful to actually do it, she's basically saying before the vaccine we had a stay-at-home order, so they didn't need to go anywhere, so therefore an EV fit the range, fit the bill, because I guess the range was so limited, it didn't matter, because she then immediately said, well, now their range is better. I think I actually cracked the code. That's what she was saying, that they bought an EV because it didn't matter that there were no charging infrastructure. She wouldn't be facing what Jennifer Granholm or Pete Buttigieg did, looking, because they wouldn't be going anywhere. So we cracked that code. So she's admitting the inferiority of the current technology.
So true.
But you're absolutely right. For Joe Biden and AOC to show up at this, now in solidarity, Scranton Joe and AOC with their Green New Deal, which literally has in its targets the gas-powered car ban. This is the controlled demolition of the American auto unions, the American automobile industry completely, with all of these 100% EV mandates coming from California, coming from Joe Biden's EPA. And yet they're acting as though they're the friends of the union. 1 million people make non-electric cars. 1 million workers make non-electric cars. They could, about 40% of those, 400,000 workers, could lose their job if these Biden EV mandates actually went through. And of course, 7 million jobs depend on that. So we're talking about a mass transformation, all going to China, typically, in this scenario.
No, they're going to get bailed out by the American taxpayer again when all of this blows up in their faces. And Ford and General Motors and Chrysler or Stellantis, they should never have gotten on board with this electric vehicle push in the first place. So shame on all of them. I want to move on to this. Climate zealots of the world unite. Be prepared to cough up serious dough. A new report conducted by a consulting agency found that in order to achieve the absurd goal of net zero carbon emissions by 2050 and avoid global temperatures from rising above 1.5 degrees Celsius this century, it would cost the world an estimated $2.7 trillion per year. So that's $75 trillion total global investment. This is what I call the claptrap of the climate con, net zero. And we should just times 10 all of these numbers. The whole goal is to just bankrupt the world. And anybody who signs on to it is as foolish as John Kerry.
Yeah, I mean, you look at the UK Prime Minister, who's like baby step walking back some of the aspects of net zero. He is being eviscerated by Al Gore, by his own party, by fellow conservatives in the UK. This is a very simple concept. The United Nations claims that in order to meet net zero, you got to keep the temperatures within 1.5 degrees Celsius. We now know from the ClimateGate scandal that the entire premise of net zero was, quote, pulled from thin air. All of these temperature goals are political statements. They have no idea how to achieve any temperature goals. But the implication here is $75 trillion, just like with the UN Paris Agreement, which was probably a little bit cheaper, and just with the Green New Deal, which was a little bit cheaper than these estimates. The idea is if we spend enough money, we can finally end the climate emergency. We should all have little party hats and confetti and be throwing it. We're $75 trillion away from not hearing about climate change nonsense and the climate emergency anymore. All we have to do is write this check and they'll go away. Of course, that won't happen. There's no criteria to end this. This is only a down payment in their minds, the $75 trillion. This is insane. We need people to change the narrative. We need people to challenge the narrative. Unfortunately, Republican leadership on Capitol Hill doesn't look like it's ready to do so yet.
Climate Depot publisher Marc Morano, thank you for joining us. We appreciate it.
Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot.
Oh, it's changing. That's why you hear these